Okay, so I can't be with you guys today, so this is a quick lesson on how to take notes on a primary source. So when we get primary sources in class, you're always going to annotate or take notes on those, and you use that information from the source to answer the question that the class is focused on. So the 4 steps to reading a primary source is, first you have to find all the basic source information, the author, the location, and the date of the source, when it was written. Second step is to read the source and find the main idea or the gist. I like to call it the gist. The third step is to read the source again and break down each sentence of the source into simple sentences. You want to break down those long sentences into something simple that you understand. And lastly, when you're done with all that, you should be able to answer the question that we're focused on. So for this example, we're going to use this little source right here. And we're going to start with our question. What was it like working in a factory? So first, we read the source information that says, Lowell Mill factory worker describing working conditions in a Lowell, Massachusetts textile or fabric factory, March 1847. So when I read through that, I figured out the author. It says Lowell Mill factory worker. So I know who wrote this. It is a Lowell Mill factory worker. So I'm going to write author in my notes. Then we said we want to know the location. So we see capitalized the city of Lowell, Massachusetts. So I'm going to comment and say that that is the location and save it as a comment. Last, they said what date or when was it written. So at the end it says March 1847. So I'm going to write date and put it as a comment. This is how we're going to take notes on the source. So first things first, we got to read it for that second step and find the gist. So the source says, the time we are required to labor is altogether too long. It is more than our constitutions can bear. If anyone doubts it, let them come into our mills on a summer's day at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon and see the drooping, weary persons moving about as though their legs were hardly able to support their bodies. So as I read through this, I'm trying to figure out what's the main point this factory worker is trying to make. And as I read it, I noticed that he seems to be pointing out how exhausting it is. So I would say the gist or main idea of this source is that factory life is exhausting. Simple. We don't need the gist to be any more complicated than that. He just seems to say that factory life is exhausting. So we're going to save that as a comment. Now our third step is to break down the source each bit. So he says, the time we are required to labor is altogether too long. It is more than our constitutions can bear. That seems to point out one main idea that I like. And I'm going to use this other tool to add a comment. And I'm going to add a comment that it seems like they are working for too long, because they said that it's the time we are required is too long and we can't deal with it. So I'm going to make a simple statement that and break this down that they are working for too long. That's a comment. And the other thing that really stood out to me when I read it was they talked about how if anyone doubts it, let them come in on a summer's day and see the drooping, weary persons moving about as though their legs were hardly able to support their bodies. So this last statement really kind of sticks with me personally. So I'm going to make a comment, and it seems that factory workers are so tired. That's what I see. It says drooping, weary persons moving about as though their legs were hardly able to support their bodies. So I think a simple way to state that is factory workers are so tired they can barely stand up. And so now that we've read the source, we've found the source information, we've gotten the main idea or gist that we commented up here, and we broke down the source bit by bit, I think we can answer this question. What is it like working in a factory? I'm going to answer that. Working in a factory is hard. Can't type it, but that's what it is.